Every day, streaming platforms are flooded with millions of tracks, an endless cascade of musicians uploading their work, competing for a fraction of your attention. This massive field of 11 million data points shows exactly how that plays out. Out of all those artists, just 3,300 of them generate half of all global streams. The rest barely register. In 1963, physicist Derek J. de Solla Price noticed a similar anomaly. He was studying scientific journals, trying to figure out why a handful of researchers dominated the conversation, while most published in complete obscurity. This mathematical formula, the square root of n, alongside its population map, illustrates what he found. The distribution wasn't a standard bell curve. Price discovered that the square root of the number of people in any given domain produces exactly 50% of the output. To see how that scales, imagine a company of 100 employees. According to the math, just 10 of those people are carrying half the entire workload. Corporate offices aren't the only places governed by this math. This is a power law distribution, and it dictates complex systems everywhere. Look at a wide-angle view of the Milky Way. You'll find roughly 100 billion stars, but a tiny fraction, the square root, generates half the light in the entire galaxy. Across all these systems, from streaming data to the light of the galaxy, the distribution doesn't follow a balanced bell curve. It means that in any complex field, the vast majority of effort is mathematically destined to be maintenance. This mathematical reality creates two distinct psychological traps. For the high performers, those consistently sitting in that square root across different fields, there's often a lingering sense of imposter syndrome, a feeling that their disproportionate success must be a fluke. For the rest of the population, it creates the Dunning-Kruger trap. People put in long hours and wonder why they aren't seeing massive results. They mistake the act of doing maintenance work for doing the high-leverage work that actually moves the needle. Here is the central paradox of Price's law. It is impossible to predict which of your efforts will actually fall into that high-performing square root before you execute them. This grid maps out over 730 pieces of content published by a single creator over 8 months. Out of all those newsletters, notes, and interactions, exactly 17 scattered items drove the vast majority of subscriber growth. You cannot find those 17 winners without first producing the 713 pieces of work that fell flat. Volume is the only way to uncover the math. Navigating this reality requires moving through 3 distinct phases. Phase 1 is the early game. This is purely about exploration, planting seeds everywhere, testing ideas, and seeing what actually grows. During this initial phase, Price's law hasn't taken effect. The system simply lacks sufficient data to reveal the square root. Phase 2 is the middle game. This is the identification phase. You've produced enough volume that patterns finally start to emerge, revealing where your multipliers lie. This timeline graph shows Phase 3, the late game. This is the exploitation phase. You ruthlessly cut out the noise and double down exclusively on the winners. It is easy to get stuck by attempting to skip straight to the late game, doubling down on a narrow strategy before you have enough data to know where your actual multiplier sits. The education system and corporate ladders sell the idea that individuals need to be well-rounded, constantly working to fix their weaknesses. This diagram of 3 overlapping bell curves illustrates a far superior strategy. Instead of fixing weaknesses, you combine 2 or 3 skills where you perform in the top 10%. That tiny overlap mathematically creates a rare, top 1% hybrid skill in the marketplace. You can apply this exact same logic to time management. We operate under the illusion that a 40-hour work week equals 40 hours of actual output. This block represents 40 units of time. If you map the actual output, 34 of those hours crumble away into administrative noise and busy work, leaving only about 6 solid hours of high-leverage, needle-moving activity. Elite performance isn't about trying to squeeze more productivity out of a 40-hour week. It's about identifying and fiercely protecting those 6 vital hours from the rest of the noise. Compounding systems do not care about fairness, and they do not care about equality of effort. They only produce exponential distributions. This resolves a massive source of modern anxiety. Taking pointless meetings, launching failed products, and doing useless work early on isn't a waste of time. It is a mathematical requirement. True, compounding success is born in the invisible margins. It comes from the micro-connections made between the massive volume of things that failed and the tiny fraction that actually worked. Mastering Price's law means willingly embracing the chaos and noise of exploration until you find your undeniable signal. And once you do, having the courage to kill everything else.